Oh, yeah. Coffee in the woods. Bush coffee. It does taste good. This is going to go down well. Well, as I sit here and enjoy my cup of coffee, I think I'll join in the series of storytelling that Wayne from Cult Craven Bushcraft and Survival started about encounters with wild animals. So I have two stories. I wasn't sure that I was going to share either of these stories, but I think maybe I will. They're a little different, and you'll understand why. Disclaimer, I'm a city boy. I was born and raised in Halifax, right in the downtown of Halifax. I haven't lived out in the country. I grew up. I spent my entire career working in the city. I did cottage in St. Margaret's Bay, and I do have experience in the woods. So it's just that I haven't lived out in the woods. But I spent a fair amount of time out in the woods, and I still do. Enjoy it every day as much as I can anyway. But my first story, bit funny, bit on the scary side at the time, let me tell you, but in hindsight it's quite funny. So many of you will know that I was a police officer for Halifax Regional Municipality for 36 years. I retired just a little over a year ago. I have a lot of stories I could tell from that, but this is one that involves a wild animal in the city. So quite a few years ago now, late October, I was beginning my night shift, and I got a call to go down to the Armdale Rotary in Halifax that there was a bull moose walking down St. Margaret's Bay Road. Now that's a new one on me. When I arrived, yes, there was a bull moose in the middle of the Rotary, for those of you who are familiar with Halifax, eating the flowers. And we said, okay, what are we going to do with this? Well, we called the Department of Natural Resources, and we asked for them to send somebody that could dart the animal and get it back into its wild habitat. They said it would be a few hours before they could get anybody to come in. So in the meantime, we had to babysit this moose, keep an eye on it, watch where it went, and if possible, corral it somewhere. 5 hours. 5 hours, I followed this moose, I watched where it went, I had to stop traffic when it decided to go down the middle of a road, and 5 hours I had to wait for the Department of Natural Resources to come before they could dart it. And even after they darted it, it was still another half hour before the dart fully took effect. There's a number of funny stories that come out of that incident, but the one I want to share with you I think is quite comical, if a little dangerous at the time. We were probably 3 or 4 hours into the chase, if you will, and it was dark now, and the moose had made its way around the north end of Halifax, and it had gone onto the train tracks and had gone around what's known as Fairview Cove. And it was reported to be following the train tracks, and it would be coming down near Seaview Park. So I took my patrol car and I went into Seaview Park, and at that time there was a 10-foot high fence and gate that cut Seaview Park off from the main road so it could be closed down at night. I got inside the fence and I got out of my patrol car and I closed the fence down, I closed the gate down, thinking, aha, I've got this moose trapped in this area. I positioned my patrol car so that the headlights were shining down the railroad track. And I got out of my car and I just stood in front of the patrol car and I waited and waited to see if the moose was coming along. That was probably my first mistake. Well, a few minutes later, I could see a shadow of something coming down the tracks, and as I waited a little bit longer until the shadow approached, it was like it was something out of a comic book. Here was this bull moose barreling down the tracks, its head lowered. All I could see was a silhouette, and puffs of steam coming out of the nostrils. It looked like something out of a comic book, or a cartoon, if you will. Well, very quickly, I got back into my patrol car. The moose was charging my car. I threw it into reverse and was speeding backwards through the parking lot with this moose in hot pursuit. Well, I guess I was able to get enough distance from the moose that he eventually lost interest in me and moved on. So there were a number of other incidents where during that night where I encountered the moose, one of which was kind of funny as well. The moose had been reported to go into one of the small neighborhoods in the north end of Halifax, and I pulled into a small cul-de-sac in this neighborhood and looking for the moose, and the moose was reported to have gone behind one of the houses, and I rolled down my windows and was listening for any sign that the moose might be coming out. And I had my lights off, the car was turned off, and I was looking and looking, nothing. And suddenly I caught a slight motion to my right, and here was the moose, nose down, eyes in, looking at me in the window of the patrol car. Yeah, I was a little frightened. I froze, didn't move, and the moose stared at me for a minute, and then slowly it just withdrew its head and wandered on. That's as close as I want to come to a live moose in heat, because it was in rut. There was no question. We could not corral this moose. It was determined. I don't know where it thought it was going to go. Downtown Halifax for a beer? I'm not sure. Yeah, funny story. The other one, a little funny now that I think about it, but it was an encounter just a few years ago. My wife and I were car camping up in Kujipukak National Park in New Brunswick. Beautiful place. If you ever get the opportunity, you would like that, I'm sure. And it has miles and miles and miles of trails all through the woods, and it's quite a wild area. There had been bears reported in the area, and I had gone out for a run one day. Now, I used to be a long-distance runner, so this was quite a bit of a run, but wow, what a beautiful place to go for a run. And I was about an hour into my run, and I had long since left any of the areas where people would normally be. And I was running along, and if any of you have run long distances, you know that after a period of time you kind of internalize in your mind, and you just kind of not necessarily paying all the attention you probably should be to your surroundings. So I was running along, just minding my own business, I guess, and not particularly paying close attention maybe as I should have. And suddenly, and immediately to my left, there was a crashing noise. And it caught me so off guard that I stopped mid-stride, and literally not more than 10 feet to my left, 2 bear cubs up a tree, just a small dead spruce tree if I recall, come sliding down the tree because I had surprised them so badly. And as they slid down the tree, Mama Bear, right beside them, stood up. So 10 to 12 feet away from me was Mama Bear standing up to her full height. Lord, those things are big. Probably 8, 9 feet on his hind legs, and his nose was going in the air trying to catch my scent. And yeah, I did exactly what you're not supposed to do. I turned and ran. And I'm thinking the whole time, what am I doing? This thing can catch me easily. But I had been running for an hour, and it just seemed to me the most natural thing to do. Well, the bear didn't chase me, and I suspect it didn't consider me any threat. In fact, it probably scared it so bad that it and the cubs took off in the other direction. Could have ended up differently, though. I could have ended up between Mama and the cubs, and that would have been a different story. Well, you can better believe now that when I go for running in Kujipukak National Park that I'm paying more attention to bear sign and what's ahead of me on the trail. And, yeah, 2 encounters. Well, Wayne, I hope these fit the criteria for wild encounters. One happened in the city, one happened in the woods, be it in the national park. But good memories. I encourage other people to share memories like this. It's kind of fun. It's kind of what we as bushcrafters like to do, share stories. And there's some lessons to be learned out of them as well. The moose is probably the one I remember the lesson on the most because it wasn't until years later I remember watching Les Stroud talk about his encounters with wild animals. And Les Stroud, Survivor Man, said, in his mind, the most dangerous animal in Canada is a bull moose during rutting season. And yeah, I can believe it. All right, hope that works, Wayne. I hope you enjoy that story. Bye for now.